We're in the final stretch now. In about 1 month's time, we are finally going to be getting the full reveal of Starfield. And actually, in a little under a month's time, we may even be getting a surprise secret trailer drop. In this video, I'll explain what I mean by all of that, but also just kind of tell you everything. Everything you need to know about Starfield. Up until this point, Bethesda has released 13 official videos, tens of interviews, there's a ton of leaked images and other leaked information, and I basically just read through, watched, and consumed all of that and produced this one singular video that basically just has everything you need to know. So when these trailers and new information does start to drop, you are immediately caught up to speed. And hey, this video took a really long time, so if you do enjoy it and want to get subscribed, I have a lot more Starfield content on the horizon. But with that said, let's just start with what Starfield actually is. Starfield is set to release on November 11th, 2022, and this seems pretty firm. There's been obviously a lot of delays with video games as of late, a big concern about delays. When asked about this release date, Todd Howard described how the release date is written in ink in the teaser trailer. The game will release for the Xbox Series X, Series X, and PC only, so it's not going to be coming out on last gen, and unfortunately, there'll be no PlayStation releases. Microsoft didn't whip out their checkbooks for nothing. And as far as the development overall, the game was already in a state where you could play the entire thing as of November of 2021. And we heard how it hit alpha last summer and is likely to hit beta this summer. So it definitely seems like they're pacing things well as far as from a content perspective. It's not like they're jamming to get things out on time. Starfield's going to predominantly be a single player game. Todd Howard's been wanting to make this game for 25 years, and you could literally find forum posts from 25 years ago about him talking about a sci-fi RPG, which is just incredible. The design and aesthetic of Starfield is described as NASA punk, not quite Star Wars, but their own thing Bethesda was trying to make here. They're shooting for their own niche in the sci-fi genre, and it's going to be taking place 300 years in the future, where man is now living amongst the stars. And although this will be a unique Bethesda game, it'll still have that familiar Bethesda Game Studios DNA. You can touch the world, loot people, the skill system is similar to Skyrim, etc. Starfield will be a grounded sci-fi game with a sense of reality to it. Todd Howard himself actually visited SpaceX to help establish the rules of the technology. They describe how in Skyrim there's magic to explain some things, and Fallout radiation, and Starfield will have its own version of that to justify the future tech we are seeing. And Bethesda even describes how, even though this is 300 years in the future, they went decade by decade and created a timeline of major events and achievements in the Starfield universe. And although space travel is here, we are living amongst the stars after all, it's not going to be a completely casual thing. Space travel in Starfield is described as flight in the 40s. It's dangerous. Still dangerous to go and explore, even though lots of people do it. And we've heard numerous times how Bethesda describes this as the be-all, end-all science fiction game. Hugely epic, but unique, and only Bethesda could pull something like this off. And it definitely seems plausible. Bethesda has been working on this game since 2016. It's going to be one of the longest dev times of any of their modern games. And one thing we definitely know is it looks pretty good. The teaser trailer from E3 2021 gives us a good look at the visuals of Starfield, how good this game will actually look. Right at the start, it's described as being an in-engine trailer. People are confused by this, but Bethesda later described how we created this trailer entirely in-game without any cinematic tools. This is a next-gen game first and foremost. It's designed for high-end PCs and the Xbox Series X/S, and Todd Howard even just describes how they set the bar really high with this one. But overall, when it comes to the actual experience of Starfield and what we do know about this story, they continuously get back to this point about exploration. We know there'll be multiple planets and cities to explore, that is directly confirmed by Todd Howard, and they describe how a core aspect of Starfield is going to be seeing what is out there. One dev described how this is a Han Solo simulator, suggesting we'll be darting around the universe on our own adventure. We can be who we want and go where we want in this game. And with this in mind, Todd Howard also described how Starfield is going to be hundreds of hours of gameplay big, with a separate employee leaking that Starfield has an abundance of content as it stands right now. There definitely isn't going to be a content shortage with this game. And when you look at the concept art on a high level, we see all kinds of different worlds and environments. Swamps, sprawling tundra, space stations of some kind, and even just completely foreign and alien looking landscapes. Combining this with the fact that we literally see planets in some of the leaked images suggests we will be going to a lot of different different locations in Starfield. We'll be exploring a lot. That's a cornerstone of this game. That's a good overview of what you could expect, and we're going to dive deeper into the actual lore of this world, gameplay features confirmed already, and even some of the RPG mechanics that are making a return. But I also want to touch on when we could see more Starfield, or really when we are going to see more Starfield. Starfield's going to be getting a proper reveal in just a little over a month's time at the Xbox and Bethesda Summer Showcase. This taking place at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, June 12th. And this is notable. This is not just a Bethesda showcase. All of Xbox will be there, which is a lot nowadays. And the showcase will seemingly only be about 90 minutes in length, which you might think, okay, 90 minutes, that's an hour and a half. That's a pretty long time. But when you actually look back at past Bethesda reveals, like with Fallout 76 or Fallout 4, we got a 30-minute deep dive from Todd Howard. And considering this is a 90-minute showcase, a 30-minute deep dive would be a third of the showcase. With how many games they have, how many studios are under Xbox now, it seems incredibly unlikely we get that here. So I definitely expect something a bit on the shorter side, like a 10-minute gameplay trailer, not a full 30-minute deep dive like we've had in the past. But another date to keep in mind, and don't worry, I will remind you if you are interested and you get subscribed, is May 31st and really June 1st more notably. Do you remember how with Fallout 4 and Fallout 76, we got a mysterious stream that ended with a teaser trailer for those games? Well, if Bethesda does continue that trend, on May 31st at around 10 a.m., a teaser stream will go up. The live stream will likely go on for about 24 hours without much happening, but then on June 1st at around 10 a.m., 24 hours after the stream starts, we will likely get a teaser trailer for Starfield. Again, assuming they follow the trend they have in the past. And now on one hand, this is a very different situation. Xbox and Microsoft own Bethesda now, and even more importantly, Bethesda has already released a Starfield teaser, so are they going to do another Starfield teaser? That would be their third one. But at the same time, if you look back at those past teaser trailers, they have gotten a very large quantity of views, so it wouldn't shock me. Seems like this has worked very well in the past. And lastly, we know that Bethesda is hosting QuakeCon this year. Bethesda typically showcases some details about their new and upcoming games, like with Fallout 4 and 76 at QuakeCon. So from August 18th to 20th, all digital QuakeCon will happen. We'll likely see more Starfield then at the very least. But okay. Those are unique and interesting dates to keep in mind. But what about the lore of this world? Because we actually have a lot of this already. In Starfield, we're going to be a part of Constellation, the last group of space explorers who is committed to uncovering the mysteries of the galaxy. The game takes place in 2330, but Constellation starts in 2188, so 142 years prior to the actual setting of the game this company or organization was established. We're a new member of Constellation in 2330, and we'll be going to the deepest reaches of the galaxy. It seems like Constellation members are going to have almost a Pip-Boy-esque item, that being the Chronomark Life Pack Interlink. We can see this during the teaser trailer, but also there's a real version of this little watch and case. Seems like this might be the collector's edition item. We could see Todd Howard wearing it in some videos. It's core to the Constellation organization, so it's not clear exactly what this will do, but it likely is like a Pip-Boy. And Constellation was actually the one clue Bethesda gave us in that original 2018 teaser trailer. And also, the ship we're flying in Starfield is named the Frontier. Starfield is going to have many factions, but Constellation is the main faction we are a part of. But similar to Skyrim, we'll have the ability to join many other factions and carve out our own life in this world, or really now universe. The setting of Starfield is pretty interesting. It is going to be a part of our solar system in an area called the Settle Systems during the year 2330, like I said before, which is exactly 308 years into the future. The Settled Systems will take place in a relatively small pocket of the Milky Way, which is our massive galaxy. And specifically, the Settled Systems is extended 50 light years out of our own solar system, which is an interesting wording as it does seem to imply that our own solar system is included in the Settled Systems. And considering that's where Starfield takes place, our own solar system should be there. So Earth, Mars, our moon, Jupiter, etc. The visual here makes it a little bit confusing. It looks like it's a separate solar system, but what they're verbally saying just means it is all encompassing. Our solar system is within the Settled Systems, along with several other solar systems, hence the Settled Systems naming. And we actually get a lot of clues of our own solar system being relevant. Cydonia Security are mentioned as not having a sense of humor in the teaser trailer. Cydonia is a region of Mars. Perhaps we'll be visiting Mars in Starfield. The intro of the Into the Starfield series is literally a visual of Jupiter. Then we have this thing, which is likely going to be important, but it also could just be a cool looking background. But what a lot of people think, and what I personally think, is this is actually going to be one of the maps of Starfield, perhaps the entire map of the explorable areas we have, or just a segment of it. This image or background can be seen all over. It's actually on a table in the teaser trailer. It can be seen in a bunch of the marketing material presented. And one of the big reasons people assume this is a map or the map for Starfield is the fact that, as you see it in the trailer on this table, many of the dials and icons on this table have references to navigating and charting. But that gets into the further question of, okay, is this a map of a single planet or an entire galaxy? It heavily resembles a topographic map suggesting just a singular planet, but some others have speculated that these are in fact gravity fields. And those dots are either suns or planets or just celestial bodies of some kind. If you look at maps at gravitational fields that exist in real life, they actually do look pretty similar, albeit the version in the Starfield marketing is much simplified, and there is even a plan for a collection of satellites known as LISA to go up and map gravitational fields in the year 2037 in real life. It's a plan that's going on with NASA right now. The idea of mapping things in this way is relatively new, and I think this is actually going to play a larger role in the lore and story of Starfield. There's a theory that space is made up of closed loops of gravitational forces, which sounds complicated, but basically, if we can track and map those gravitational forces, it would open up a whole host of new possibilities when it comes to faster than light travel. In the trailer, we can hear a voice say, "Graviton loop array spooled."
Graviton loop array spooled. Check.
A graviton is thought to be a particle that carries gravity, and in turn, if you have a bunch of gravitons, it'll create a gravitational field. AKA, if you can track gravitons, you'll actually be able to track gravitational fields. And in turn, if you could track gravitational fields, you could track the location of planets, stars, etc. And this naturally is a very complicated subject, but to keep things simple, with the mention of a graviton loop array, as well as this map being shown on a table, being a space game, it seems very likely these are gravitational fields, and this is in fact a map of Starfield, or at least that's what I choose to believe here. And it's very likely that in Starfield, our ability to manipulate gravitons, as we're hearing in this trailer, is how we're able to travel far distances. With that in mind, assuming this is in fact a map, there are going to be a lot of places to explore, which based off the sheer quantity of different locations shown off in the concept art does seem pretty plausible. Obviously it's just concept art, we don't know what's going to come to fruition, but there's a lot of different things being shown off. But one of the big overarching themes we're seeing described with Starfield is facing humanity's big questions as to why we are all here, where is it leading, and what is next for humanity. The diagram from on board the ship during the teaser seems to be a key, or at least a clue around this. And the voiceover literally says, "We have found the key to unlock everything."
What you've found, it's the key to unlocking everything.
And this thing also seems to be prominently shown in the marketing material of Starfield. We see notes in the trailer attempting to dissect what this device is and what exactly it does, specifically saying we have been unable to determine what happens in the center. In this image, it looks like something shooting out of the center. So whatever this is, it's important, but what exactly it is completely unclear. The key to interstellar travel, the key to aliens, the key to eternal life, the list could go on and on. It seems like it is potentially answering humanity's biggest question, or the key to getting the answer to that question. But as far as what that question is and what the key actually does, we just have no idea. It does feel worth bringing up the cosmic event from the original trailer. The 2018 teaser ends with people being sucked into something, or something happening in space. Perhaps this all actually ties back around to that when it was just a simpler idea. That seems to give us a pretty good look at what some of the major story components will be of Starfield, but as far as the overall theme and perhaps even gameplay, the two books in the trailer do seem to give us an idea. That being with Omega and Sailing Alone Around the World. Sailing Alone Around the World is the story of the first person to solo sail around the world, doing it completely alone. It's a story about not only exploration, but isolation, and all of the interesting people they meet along the way. Omega is a completely fictional story about an approaching comet and the world's reaction to it, an impending doom and how people react and feel on that impending doom. So with that in mind, and kind of combining what this could mean, and Todd Howard did say everything in the trailer means something, so I don't think we're looking too deeply here, but it does suggest that the story of Starfield will involve us exploring a vast and partially undiscovered universe. But perhaps along with this, there's some kind of looming threat, a global threat or extinction level event that is potentially coming, and we're going to be seeing the reactions or even the solutions to it. We're going to meet new people, discover new places, but it seems like the people and interactions will be an integral part of this story, which is heavily backed up by some of the quotes Todd Howard has said, like, "We've come to the beginning of humanity's final journey for all into the Starfield." One of those big threats may be the Pirates of the Crimson Fleet. From the initial Into the Starfield video, we can see a singular document being worked on. This reveals that the Pirates of the Crimson Fleet have extended beyond their intended system and into United Colony space. The Crimson Fleet is not a singular faction, but a loose confederation of pirate captains. In retaliation, SysDef, the Vanguard, Freestar Collective, and the United Colonies are fighting back against this. And this seems to be a large-scale threat. These are some of the largest and most powerful factions fighting against a bunch of pirates. It definitely seems like there's a lot of pirates. And they also have this unique Jolly Roger that the pirates do fly. We know the Freestar Collective and United Colonies are big. 20 years prior to the start of the game, these two factions were at war in something known as the Colony Wars. But now the major factions have an uneasy peace, so things are peaceful, but it may not stay that way. The United Colonies are the most powerful faction in the game from both a military and political standpoint, and they're described as the future space republic realized. The United Colonies capital is at New Atlantis, featuring people from all over the system as a true melting pot. And based on the visuals from the concept art, it seems like a real futuristic spacer city. And it seems like we're going here. During the teaser trailer, you could see some indications on this table and actually hear the person on the mic mention the planet Jemison. This was mentioned in that document from the behind the scenes video. Planet Jemison is the home of New Atlantis. New Atlantis is on planet Jemison. And since it seems in the teaser we are flying to planet Jemison,
Jemison route looks good.
we're likely flying to New Atlantis, the United Colonies capital on this planet, and it seems like that could be where we start off in Starfield, or it's a location we go to early on. It actually makes me think that this planet shown in the art is in fact planet Jemison. But okay, that aside, getting back on topic, the Freestar Collective is a loose confederation of 3 star systems with a capital at Aquila City. Aquila City is completely walled in, and the people care deeply about personal freedom and individuality. Outside of the city are the Ashta, described as alien predators, which are a cross between a wolf and a velociraptor, which are suspected to be these guys hung up on Aquila City in this other concept art. They don't actually look like a wolf or a velociraptor, so it is suspected that this is a description of the Ashta's behavior more than their appearance. And although Aquila City is just one example, it seems like a good representation of what the Freestar Collective is all about. The Freestar Collective seem much more like a frontier people. And you can see how the Freestar Collective and United Colonies could butt heads. The United Colonies look like almost corpos or futuristic, while the Freestar Collective are more rugged do-it-yourselfers that live perhaps more in the brinks of society. We also do have the Xenofresh Corporation, who founded what would become Neon. Originally, they set up an aquatic settlement to catch fish, but quickly realized that the fish had some fun chemic properties and now sell that aspect instead of just fish as food. This chem is known as Aurora and can be found only on Neon, making this a huge tourist attraction. And later on, we don't really know what happened here, but at some point, Ryujin Industries took over Neon, and they are the people that currently run this. These are described as the corpos of the Starfield universe, and how things went from Xenofresh and catching fish on a smaller scale to a full-on Neon City and Ryujin running things, we don't really know, but definitely seems like there could be a deeper story here. And Ryujin Industries is described as having one of the most interesting introductions of any of the factions in Starfield, where we basically have to apply to a job with them. Nova Galactic can be seen prominently on this mug, and it seems like it is likely the ship heart manufacturer, or just the ship manufacturer in general. We can see it named throughout the spaceship, and even on the hull, the name has the prefix NG for Nova Galactic likely. We can see this 10th planet patch. It is a reference to the cancelled Bethesda game 10th Planet, which was also a space game. We could also see some other patches and medals here. The logos for TC and Axion Energy can be seen in the leaked images. And we also hear on the topic of factions how there are a variety of threats in the Starfield universe. Ecliptic mercenaries are coming, and they look like this. We know literally nothing else about them. the Pirates of the Crimson Fleet, which definitely seem like a large-scale threat, but they will be joinable by us, so we can join this faction, at least to some degree. General Violent Spacers, it seems like these guys will just be akin to raiders. And the House Faru, which are described as radical religious zealots. It has been mentioned by Todd Howard how Starfield will get into religion somewhat and other serious topics. Aliens will be a thing in Starfield. Have heard this from interviews and even in some of the concept art, of course, we can see alien creatures. It has been described how there'll be a grounded approach to aliens though. And thus far, there hasn't been any indications that you could play as an alien or there'll be intelligent aliens. And it seems like this thing is currency in Starfield, but does say currency on the side of it. One of the exciting parts about Starfield for a lot of Bethesda fans is this is going to be more of an RPG. It's been simply described how it's also a bit more of a hardcore of a role-playing game than we've done. It's going to have good character systems like choosing your background, and we've heard how which background you pick will impact the story somewhat. It'll have a skill system which has been described as similar to Skyrim's skill system with a few notes from Fallout 4. Also things Bethesda hasn't done in a while, like traits are coming back. Bethesda has never really done traits on any of their more modern games. Obviously it was in New Vegas, but Bethesda didn't make New Vegas. Typically the way this will work is you could pick a couple of traits and it'll basically give you a buff and a debuff, like having more agility, but your limbs break more easily. And overall to describe how we're going back to some things we used to do in games long ago that we felt really let players express the characters they want to be. In other interviews, they likened it to Skyrim, the story Bethesda Game Studios wants to tell, but also the story you can carve out for yourself with your character. They're taking some of the aspects of hardcore RPGs and modernizing them with Starfield, with what is described as a severely leveled up ability to create interesting characters for yourself, but also they're creating more interesting characters with the world. With Starfield, Bethesda is leaning more onto how other characters feel about us, whether it be companions commenting on discoveries as they are made, but also likely NPC reactions based on how we build our character, and in how we interact with NPCs. There's going to be a persuasion minigame that won't be as obvious or basic as it was in Fallout 4. The system doesn't present a clear correct answer, and you must consider your risk in these interactions. It sounds more like a fluid conversational process. You're talking to someone and have to pick up based on dialogue or context clues what the right answer is to persuade them of something. But then we get into some of the gameplay elements that have been described and shared. And just at a high level, this game is going to say yes to a lot of things. There's a wide breadth of things you'll be able to do. So when you look at something, you're like, hey, can I do that? There's a lot of yeses in that context. Starfield will have an upgraded engine, and it's described how the tech gap is likely to be the biggest Bethesda has ever had from one game to another. They've completely redone the renderer for Starfield, the animation system got updates, and much of the guts of the engine itself have been improved and upgraded. Todd Howard even described how this engine overhaul took them longer than they would like. The core takeaway here is that we should expect major upgrades with Starfield compared to Fallout 4. And I have a suspicion this will be an AI also. In a 2018 interview, Todd mentions how visuals are getting so good that huge jumps are getting harder in that category. But with AI, there's still a lot of potential for huge jumps to happen. This will be a first and third person game like past Bethesda games. First person continues to be the primary style of playing though. Seems like ship flight may be a feature. This is a hotly debated topic, but I'm convinced and I think it'll definitely be something in Starfield. During this teaser trailer, we of course see someone literally boarding and taking off in a spaceship. And there's a rather large chunk of the trailer just being very detailed systems and system readouts like propulsion control, a primary flight display, and even weapons and shields. And perhaps even more damning is the flight check override screen, which lists auto flight as off and seemingly as captain control, which would imply that automatic flight is turned off because we are manually flying the ship ourselves. We know that developers from Bethesda Game Studios did experience a real-life Lockheed flight sim, so they're doing a real flight sim for real spaceships. When talking about the music of Starfield, they describe how there are vast distances across a black starry background, which would imply we are manually controlling a spaceship as we fly across a black starry background. But what I think is the convincing point for me is we recently had a Bethesda Game Studios employee leak ship flight reportedly. This was on a Reset Era post, and basically both the admins on Reset Era, as well as Jason Schreier confirmed this person really worked for Bethesda. The Jason Schreier confirmation in particular is a big one. He has leaked a plethora of things about Bethesda games, and is probably the single best source for Bethesda Game Studios leaks. And basically this developer on this forum says he thinks shooting feels alright, but flying feels terrible at the moment in his opinion. It's just not fun to him, and there's an overabundance of content in Starfield, and he later states how he doesn't like the feel of flying in Starfield, and the wording there does imply that we are actually flying the ship. It's not a cutscene or a passive thing, but the feeling of flight is us manually controlling the spaceship. Obviously, he's not talking highly about it here, but this is just one developer's opinion, and either way, to me, this outright confirms manual spaceflight in Starfield. There are a lot of clues, but having a developer who is confirmed to be a developer leak this just is the icing on the cake for convincing me. Now, how good or bad this ends up being and how extensive this is yet to be seen. Is it a full-on No Man's Sky rendition where you could fly down onto planets? Or is it just going to be you walk up to a spaceport, then you could take off into space, but you don't really have landing and things like that? I could definitely see this being what Todd Howard described when he was talking about some issues in the upgraded engine process. Maybe getting spaceflight working was fairly difficult for them. This game will have a major step out moment like other Bethesda Game Studios titles, like when you first leave the vault, and the devs even describe how in Starfield there'll likely be 2 step out moments. Perhaps one of these is when we first get our ship and kind of get full open access to space flight. But in some of the concept art, we even see other vehicles like rovers, so perhaps there will be other vehicles in addition to spaceships and spaceflight. There's going to be some improvements to the AI and NPCs. Feel they didn't go deep enough with certain things in Skyrim and hope to rectify that with Starfield. Todd Howard feels like there's a long way to go with NPCs and AI overall in gaming, and he describes how Starfield will have a greater degree of detail with other NPCs, like you're interacting with real people. The leaked images do suggest colony or settlement building could be a thing here. Lots of these structures look very modular, and although this is not confirmed, it is highly speculated that we'll have the ability to construct our own things, like the Fallout 4 settlement system. Ship customization is not confirmed or denied as a feature, but from the concept art, we see a wide variety of different types of spaceships. There's not one uniform design here, and in fact, several very distinct and unique designs are shown all throughout. Looks like visible holstered weapons are making a return with Starfield. We can see the weapon on our character's back in the teaser trailer, as well as it does appear like our space suit has a built-in jetpack. From leaked pictures, we can see a gravity meter on the HUD, so perhaps with Starfield we'll be encountering different levels of gravity and even verticality. That's why we have a jetpack built into our spacesuit. It's a cornerstone of the game. And in some other leaked pictures, we can see a warning saying no A-grav beyond this hatch, suggesting anti or artificial gravity. The overall takeaway for me is Starfield will almost certainly have different locations you go to with different degrees of gravitational force. On the leaked HUD, we also see things like an O2 to CO2 meter. These are very old pictures now, so we don't know how prominent this meter will actually be in the final build. This image is from 2018, but it could suggest there will be a major survival element to maintaining our oxygen level in Starfield. This weapon placed on the table looks pretty cool, and it is made by Grendel Combat Tech, but perhaps more importantly, it does have a 100 round magazine that is firing 7.77 by 37 ammo. This is a rather large round for what is called an SMG here. It is very similar in size to the round fired by the AK family of weapons. This does suggest that ballistic ammo will in fact be a thing in Starfield. It's not all going to be lasers and futuristic weapons. We could also see a battery towards this though, so perhaps there's some augmentations or a battery component even further, but it definitely looks like a very futuristic weapon with its displays and design overall. And Todd Howard described how there'll be a ton of weapons in Starfield, guns, but also other things. Lasers will be a feature, and there'll be some more exotic weapons, but in the game overall, this will be grounded in the reality of the game. So some far out there things, but not too far out there, and it makes sense in the world Starfield creates. We've seen a ton of different armors. I've been showing a bunch of these throughout the video. Some of these are from official sources, some of these from the leaked images. It seems like this will kind of be the core spacesuit. We see it in concept art and the leaked images. But also there's been some fan art and fan redesign of armors that give us a better look at what they may actually look like close up. There's nothing really to break down on these armors. I just think things look really cool. I imagine we're going to see a wide range of more frontier style or kind of thrown together Ravager armors, like the Crimson Fleet pirate suit, but probably some more more futuristic powered armors that we really haven't seen too much of, but you have to imagine will exist in this game. Starfield is a predominantly single player game, we've heard that time and time again, but certain multiplayer features have never technically been rolled out. So we have no idea if this will have some kind of social connectivity or not. It honestly wouldn't shock me if it has something like that. Full-on co-op would be phenomenal, but at the core, it is a single player experience. Starfield is planned to have full mod support, just like past Bethesda Game Studios games, and Todd has been consistently mentioning how he loves to see modders making a career out of it. I fully expect that we will see an expansion of Creation Club with Starfield. It might come after all of the official DLC, but just with how often Todd Howard has been mentioning this, you have to imagine they're working in some kind of marketplace or something. Starfield will have robot companions. This robot companion from the trailer and other videos is known as Vasco. It seems like Vasco may play kind of a core role to us. Maybe he'll be almost like a dog meat in Starfield. Todd Howard says he's kind of a companion, and a translated post from Bethesda Asia, they do mention how he can help fly our ship, and Vasco has been around for quite a bit. We can see several images of him out adventuring from the teaser trailer, with some of these actually being dated earlier than the start of the game, early into the 2300s. The earliest may even be 2305. With that being about 25 years before the start of Starfield, it could imply that Vasco's had his own adventures without us, or maybe we were with him during these and we just start a bit later. And last but not least, but you could climb ladders in Starfield, but not really. It's basically just clicking on a ladder and then an animation will play. Todd Howard describes how ladders are still pretty elusive to them, and this is something they use sparingly, and it is a fixed animation. We are likely getting another Into the Starfield video in the next couple of weeks. These are the behind the scenes videos that they have been releasing around Starfield, and in the very first intro one, when they introduced the series, they showed off a bunch of devs. All of those devs have popped up in videos except 2 of them, so it's likely we'll get another video featuring the lead level designer as well as the lead animator. As well as IGN got this exclusive Vasco video about a month ago. They put up this article, they had this video attached that they seemingly got sent early by Bethesda, and based on the fact that there's some kind of exclusivity going on there, I wouldn't be shocked if we get a Todd Howard interview, or maybe IGN has some gameplay reactions or some kind of unique thing from IGN. But overall, yeah, that's Starfield. That's a good recap of all of the information that I think is pertinent, that I think you need to know, that I've compiled from all of these various sources. I'm incredibly excited for this game. Hopefully this serves as a good kind of catch you up or reminder on what we know already as we get into this final countdown. A little over a month now, we'll be seeing more for sure. And you have to imagine once we get to that summer showcase, after that, the floodgates are just going to kind of open with an overwhelming amount of info. And hopefully this can provide as a backbone or a guide of what we know already, and then there'll likely be another video like this coming later in the year as another recap of everything we know before launch. As always, again though, hopefully you enjoyed. If you do like this video, you can get subscribed. There's a lot more Starfield coming on this channel. With that said though, as always again, I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.